Bob Baillargeon, to me personally, is my role model. He's all about family, he's all about faith. And when I say he talks the talk and he walks the walk, he does.
I describe my dad as just a very well-balanced person. He is, obviously a very devout Catholic.
Dad really instilled a great work ethic in us, a feeling of dedication and commitment to a job, to the family business. It brought us so close.
I remember my mother and father always saying that Christ, God, our Creator, is the source and supply of every blessing. He has truly created a legacy.
Well, I was born in Montreal, Canada. We were basically a French family because we lived in a French neighborhood, but my mom did speak English, so I was bilingual as I grew up. I prayed in French. I was an altar boy. At 6:30 Mass, my grandfather would make me up every morning to serve. His bed was right next to mine, and he was crippled, and he walked with a cane, so he would just take his cane and hit me across the shin of my legs, and that was a great way to wake up in the morning. I always cussed him a little bit. We had a very small family. We lived from paycheck to paycheck. We didn't have any hot water in our house. My sister and I had to go to the public baths 3 times a week, and so we grew up in a very poor neighborhood. My father was always involved in sports. Not only was he a good boxer, but he also played softball, and he encouraged me at a very young age, and he's the one that made me love to play baseball because we used to always go out and pitch and hit and that kind of thing. When I was in Little League, I was playing for the east part of Canada, and we played against the west in Little League World Series, and I threw a no-hitter, but a little boy got on base through an error, and we lost the game 1-0, and there's a sad picture of me in the paper where I'm almost crying out there. For a 12-year-old to lose that important game, and I wasn't used to losing. So the Brothers of the Sacred Heart, they taught me a lot about religion, about discipline, and also they were excellent teachers. So I really applied myself, and I was an honor students and graduated as president of my class and all of that. And I loved the Brothers of the Sacred Heart. And that's why in an inner city school, that's why today I still have a big heart for inner city schools. All along as I was growing up, I knew I wanted to play baseball. I was so driven. It started out like the dream of a child, but then later on I said, well, I can do this. I can be good at it, and this is going to be a way for me to help my family and for me to get to grow up in life. And so after I graduated from high school, it was decision time. I had offers from both the Dodgers and the Philadelphia Phillies, but the Phillies offer was for $12,000, and that was a lot of money, and I could use that money to help my family buy a house. The Phillies assigned me to Williamsport, PA, and there, during the beginning of the season, at a banquet, I met my wife, Margaret. Basically, as the oldest girl of 9, she raised her little brothers and sisters. Margaret had spent 2 years in a convent in Mendham, New Jersey. My first date, I had a '57 Chevrolet, and so I picked her up, and at the time, I had a statue of the Blessed Mother on my dashboard, so when she came into the car for the very first time, she noticed the statue, so she says, wait a minute, so she went to her house, and her father had roses, so she cut a rose and put it at the foot of the Blessed Mother. And at the time I said, boy, this is going to be my girl. When I was traded shortly after we met, we wrote letters for a couple of years. After 2 years, I sent her a diamond in the mail. That's how we got engaged. It was a nice, very nice wedding because as in a small town, everybody knew each other. It was a delightful wedding. In baseball, it's a commitment from the wife and the mother of your children too. It's a big commitment. So they move with you, and so we came to Dallas to play for the Dallas-Fort Worth Rangers.
And of course, baseball is what got him out of Canada and out of Montreal and got him to the States. And as they say, the rest is history.
They were so underpaid in the minor leagues. I mean, they were lucky if they could eat all month. I don't know how he did it because you had to have an off-season job. That's when he decided he got a chance to be a salesman and did well. How could you turn Bob down if you wanted to buy a car, you know?
Bob was a very young man when he came to work with my dad. I think Bob was about 28 years old, and in the Cadillac business back then, that was unheard of, to have someone new and that young and to some degree inexperienced to be in a leadership position in a Cadillac dealership.
On his desk, he had a saying that God be at my desk in every transaction that I make. And so that's why he's my mentor. He was a great mentor to me. After 12 years with Roger Meyer, I gained a lot of experience, and I found out that there was a Ford dealership available in Richardson, so I decided to go ahead and take the risk. And the economy was very tight, very difficult, and so Margaret came and joined me, and she worked basically in the parts and service department, and I operated the sales department. And so together we worked and built a dealership and saved it basically, and prospered under it.
He was one of the highest volume Ford dealers in the nation, and to take a broke, closed down location and pay it off entirely in 3 years, it never happened before.
If I had to describe their company, it'd be caring. They cared for their customers, they cared for their employees, and they dealt a lot in repeat business.
He brought such a dignity to that work, brought a respect to it. People had a new opinion of that industry because of Dad.
It wasn't just a business to us, it was a way of life.
And Bob, he was always involved in everything in the community, salesmanship club, Rotary, everything.
That civic involvement wasn't something that you just put on a resume to get checked off and fill out a box. It was a commitment you made. His core values, his emotional beliefs, his faith would ensure that he always did the right thing.
He encouraged us to do that which is right, that which is good, and he supported the efforts of doing the right thing.
Bob is a man of faith, first of all, but it's also a man of faith with a great desire for practical stewardship, that faith and works go together.
The church has always been a part of my life, and so
it was his idea to have a welcome dinner every year in order to introduce the seminarians to the greater community and to keep Holy Trinity Seminary from becoming the best kept secret in the Diocese of Dallas.
Bob has made a tremendous difference in the diocese because he has contributed his time, his talent, and his treasure to provide excellence in Catholic schools, to foster vocations to the priesthood and religious life, and to provide a seminary and a retreat house for all lay Catholics. In addition, he has worked in the pro-life movement.
From the moment I met Margaret, we realized we were kindred spirits. We were both involved in church activities, in the pro-life movement.
The two families, the Baillargeons and the Perros, they were close friends. So then, when Chuck got cancer, well, Margaret was the first one to come to Colleen's aid.
He died in 2003, and then I was a widow for a number of years after that.
Well, then Margaret got cancer, and Colleen called me just in tears.
We spent a lot of time together during those years, which we were very blessed to have.
If there is one gift about a long death, is that you're able to say everything that you need to say. And so she knew she was loved.
The items that my parents collected throughout the years from their many travels, a lot of them were dispersed upon my mother's death.
this was in our chapel at our house, and it was right behind the altar. And my wife, who's passed away about 6 years ago, she prayed every day in front of this of the Blessed Mother and Jesus. When I lost Margaret, and Colleen had already lost Chuck, and so we stayed in touch with the church family through what they call a culture club. So we all meet at Midway Point, and they're all people from St. Rita that were all part of the St. Rita parish. And
Bob and I have been through the cancer fight, and it's tough, and it's all-consuming, and it's terrible. But there is always a light at the end of the tunnel, and we found it.
It was several years later we decided to look at each other a little seriously at the time, because we were very sensitive. We were both very happily married to our husband and our wife, and so it took several years for us to grieve and to go through the process that we all have to go through.
Bob and I were married at Christ the King. It was a church full of wonderful friends. All 15 of our grandchildren were present, and of course our children. There are 6 between us. And I recall that Monsignor Zimmerman, who was the celebrant, announced to the congregation that day that he felt it was the most joyous wedding he had ever presided over.
The Catholic Foundation is very important to our Catholic diocese, very important to our Catholic lay people too. It gives us a way to create a legacy. Whatever you're doing yourself, you can pass it on to your children and grandchildren. And the Catholic Foundation as a way and a means to do that.
Bob is still giving, still working, still caring, still sharing. That's Bob. It's a work in progress.